what's happening, everyone? It is I, your conductor on this crazy train of life. Toot toot! The man, the myth, the mustache himself, Tim here. And I want to welcome you to part 12 of What If Deku Could Use Hockey. Now, just sit back and relax, because this train is going on the tracks, and you are in for a ride. So let's get this story going. Midoriya and Gran Torino kept sparring for a long time, and it was brutal. Eventually, they stopped to rest, only to continue the next day. It started off one-sided, with Gran Torino landing multiple hits on Midoriya, but that changed soon enough. It took some time, but Midoriya got used to Gran Torino's movements and began dodging almost all of them. It wasn't that he was watching Torino's speed, he just got better at observing and preparing for his moves. The two continued this hellish sparring, neither willing to let the other win, but they eventually tired themselves out. At the end of it all, they both lied down on the ground, breathing and panting heavily. Gran Torino was impressed by Midoriya. Not only did he have incredible vitality, but he was also able to see and quickly adapt. Still worried for him, but the blue-haired boy didn't respond. Midoriya was about to send another message until his observation picked up something really bad approaching the train at high speed. The green-haired boy didn't stop to think. He just dropped his phone as he grabbed anyone that was dangerously close and shouted, "Get down!" before jumping away. Just half a second after shouting, something crashed into the side of the train. Midoriya turned to look at it and could almost recognize it. It looked like the Nomu from the USJ, except this one had a different color and body structure.
That was close. Thanks for the save, kid.
Gran Torino shouted right before he jumped into combat with the Nomu. Midoriya was about to join him, but realized that the retired hero managed to take it out with just one hit. Midoriya was shocked, for he remembered the Nomu to be much tougher than that.
I need to go and help. You stay put.
Gran Torino shouted again, knocking Midoriya out of his thoughts. The green-haired boy was confused on what the retired hero meant, but didn't get to ask as Gran Torino leapt away. Midoriya was still confused until he actually looked outside. He could see fires raging in the distance, along with the sound of an occasional explosion. Midoriya was horrified, for he now realized what the Nomu was doing there. It was at that moment he decided that he couldn't just stay. He had to do something. "Yeah, there's no way I'm just gonna sit back and watch the city burn down," he muttered before he leaped out of the train. Midoriya jumped between rooftops, making his way towards the fire. While running, he kept his observation on constantly, in case he stumbled across another Nomu. But he found it hard to concentrate, because he kept worrying about Ida. The blue-haired boy didn't answer any of his messages, and Midoriya hoped that he hadn't been caught up in that destruction. Shortly after, Midoriya arrived at the scene. It was chaos, with Nomus running rampant, and heroes trying to stop them. One Nomu charged towards an unprepared hero, but Midoriya interfered. The green-haired boy leapt towards the charging Nomu, infusing his arm with Haki, before he punched it over the head and into the ground. The hero turned around, revealing himself to be Manuel, and looked shocked. He then looked at Midoriya and said, "Kid, who are you?" Midoriya just looked at him with a stoic expression as he answered, "I'm Deku. I'm an intern from UA. I came to help." Manuel calmed down after hearing those words. He then thanked Midoriya and told him to just stay in the back, before turning back towards the flames. Midoriya barely listened to Manuel, for he was getting worried. He used his observation to look as far as he could, but it still wasn't enough. The green-haired boy just couldn't find Ida, and he almost began to panic about it. "Manuel, what?" Midoriya started to speak, but immediately cut himself off. His observation sensed another danger coming in, but it wasn't approaching him. The danger was quickly approaching Manuel, so the green-haired boy rushed over to him and yelled, "Duck!" right as he dragged the hero down to the ground. Just half a second after ducking, a sword swung right over Manuel's head. Midoriya quickly prepared himself as he dragged Manuel a few steps back.
You managed to avoid that. Impressive,
an ominous voice said, sending shivers down Midoriya's spine. The green-haired boy turned towards the source of a voice, only to find a man with a red scarf and a sword staring at him. "Who are you?" Midoriya shouted angrily. The man didn't even flinch as he smoothly answered,
I call myself Stain, but others call me the Hero Killer.
Midoriya was now frozen in place, for he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was right now standing face to face with one of the most dangerous men in the country, and he had just tried to kill him.
I came here looking for something, and decided to kill that fake while I had the chance,
Stain said, almost sounding a little annoyed. Midoriya grew angry upon hearing this. He didn't care much about what the hero killer was searching for he was mad to hear him speak about murder. "That won't happen. I won't let you hurt him, or anyone else," Midoriya responded, clearly showing his anger. What Midoriya failed to notice was that his spirit was being shot out in weak waves, and Stain was reacting to them. The hero killer smiled, for he was satisfied with the green-haired boy's response. There was something else too. He felt that this kid reminded him of something he felt just recently. That is when it hit him. This boy was that powerful thing he sensed the day before. Stain's smile grew even wider as he said,
"Good answer. You're worth keeping alive, unlike that armored kid I just skewered."
Midoriya froze upon hearing this, for Stain said something that rang a bell. That armored kid is what rang a bell. Because it reminded him of someone, it reminded Midoriya of the person he had been looking for, Iida. Midoriya suddenly clenched his fists as a burning flame of rage lit up within him. "You! What the hell did you do to Iida?" Stain stopped smiling as he was about to answer, but was interrupted when Manuel got up and regained his senses. The hero killer noticed this as he quickly dashed towards the shadows. "You bastard! Get back here!" Midoriya shouted as he ran after Stain. Manuel shouted for Midoriya to stop, but the green-haired boy was too angry to hear any of it. Midoriya kept following Stain's presence until it disappeared. The green-haired boy went to the last place that it was sensed, a dark and secluded alleyway. Midoriya slowly entered the alleyway, too angry to think about what he was doing.
"It's funny, you know. I sensed your power yesterday, and it sent chills down my spine. You're easily as strong as All Might. And you even show the colors of a true hero,"
Stain's voice uttered, echoing throughout the dark alleyway. Midoriya tried to find him, but he couldn't. It was as if the hero killer had turned into a shadow without a presence to track. The green-haired boy realized that he was in a bad spot, so he slowly picked his phone up and texted his coordinates to all of his contacts. He wasn't sure if Stain saw him do it, but he hoped it went unnoticed.
"You are a true hero. So tell me, why did you take the bait? Why did you follow me here?"
Stain's voice echoed, becoming more and more like a nightmare. Midoriya stopped where he was and carefully thought over the hero killer's words. He had claimed that Midoriya was as strong as All Might, and that he had sensed him the day before. But how would he know that? Midoriya was at Gran Torino's place at that time, while Stain was still in Hosu. Unless the hero killer had managed to quickly pass by, there's no way for him to know this. Midoriya thought about this hard until he realized something. There was a way to sense someone from a distance, and Midoriya was capable of doing that. This method could also be used to measure a person's strength, unless said person was hiding his presence. The green-haired boy trembled upon this realization. Unless Stain had a weird quirk, he might be able to use Haki. If this was true, it meant that he was extremely good at it, for not even Midoriya could sense a person that's in a different city.
"Are you going to answer me?"
Stain said, his voice sounding even more ominous than before. These words knocked Midoriya out of his thoughts, as he thought of an answer. He had chased Stain out of anger, because the hero killer had hurt Iida. Midoriya clenched his fist as he answered. "Honestly, I don't know. In the back of my head, I knew it was a trap, but I still chased you. I was, and still am, furious. You hurt my friend. Do you honestly think that I'll let you get away with that?" Midoriya didn't even know what Stain was thinking, but his words must have made an impact. The hero killer hadn't responded. He hadn't even said a word. Finally, the hero killer replied.
"So you're after revenge? To kill me? That's not the way of a hero."
Midoriya could actually sense Stain now, for he wasn't hiding his presence anymore. The green-haired boy turned around, only to see the hero killer standing there. Midoriya was annoyed upon hearing Stain's words, as if he had been insulted, before he replied. "Who said anything about revenge or murder? I came here to stop you from hurting anyone else. My friend only motivates me to do so." Stain was impressed by these words, for he had expected something else. The hero killer then smiled before drawing his sword and saying,
"All right then, let's see how strong you really are,"
before charging towards Midoriya at high speeds. The green-haired boy barely had any time to react, but he managed to avoid Stain's swing. The hero killer then followed with another attack, only to have Midoriya narrowly avoid it. The fight continued like this for a while. Midoriya continued to use his observation to avoid Stain's onslaught, but there was no end to it. Stain never seemed to get tired, and was hyper-aggressive. Midoriya decided that he couldn't keep this up, and decided to counter. He deflected one of Stain's attacks, pitting the hero killer in a bad position, before he threw a Haki-infused punch toward his face. The punch was perfect, there was no way it could be avoided, but Midoriya was shocked to see what happened. Stain had managed to avoid the attack perfectly, and even counterattack. The green-haired boy used armament to negate the damage before he took some distance. Midoriya was almost horrified. Stain shouldn't have been able to avoid that attack, but he somehow managed to do so. The green-haired boy could only imagine that Stain's observation haki must be incredible, but this was almost at a different level. Midoriya calmed himself down as he tried to properly address the situation. If Stain could use haki, which he most certainly could, it was way stronger than his. His observation was incredible, but Stain hadn't shown any sign of armament haki. Midoriya could probably overpower the hero killer with armament, assuming that Stain was weaker in that category. The green-haired boy took another stance and readied himself. He had to make a plan, and that was to overwhelm his opponent to the point that he couldn't avoid anything. Midoriya charged towards his opponent, thinking this is what his opponents in the sports festival must have felt when fighting him. Stain avoided Midoriya's first punch, until another came. The hero killer avoided the second one, and the one after that. This kept going on for a long time, results not changing one bit. Midoriya couldn't land a single hit on Stain, no matter how hard he tried. Eventually, the hero killer managed to graze Midoriya with one of his knives, drawing a single drop of blood. The green-haired boy went in for another hit, but suddenly fell to the floor. He couldn't move. It was as if he had been paralyzed. He looked up towards Stain, seeing how he was licking the blood